Wow. Hey, Grok, put him in a bikini.
What's up, guys? It's Benny. Nicolas Maduro was camping out in a bunker in the most secure military facility that was guarded by Chinese and Russian technology. They had high-end stuff. They spent billions of dollars, and he had 300 security guards. Nicolas Maduro was not just standing in the middle of a Walmart parking lot. He was secure, and he was within feet of a safe room, yet he was black-bagged and chucked in the back of a helicopter like it was nothing, and no Americans lost their lives. They barely even got shot at. How the hell did that happen? Well, the American military executed the single most sophisticated and strategic special forces strike with the assistance of futuristic weapons that have never been used before on the battlefield. The U.S. used mystery secret weapons that brought Venezuelan soldiers to their knees, vomiting blood and bleeding out of their eyes and noses and ears. Witness account is horrifying. Let's read it, and then we'll talk about what this weapon actually is and what the consequences of this will be. This account from a Venezuelan security guard to Nicolas Maduro, absolutely chilling, as it explains a lot about what the tone across Latin America suddenly changed. Get a load of this. And this, by the way, in case you're wondering if somebody's just making this up, this is translated directly from the security guard. I'll play you the Spanish version of this translated as well. But this is just transcribed Spanish language interview of Nicolas Maduro's, one of his top security guards or surviving security guards, because the rest of them are dead. On the day of the operation, we didn't hear anything coming. We were on guard. All of a sudden, our radar systems shut down without explanation. The next thing we saw drones, lots of drones flying over our positions. We didn't know how to react. So what happened? How was the main attack? Security guard. After those drones appeared, some helicopters arrived, but there were very few. I think barely 8 helicopters. From those helicopters, soldiers came down, but a very small number, maybe 20 men. Those men were technologically very advanced. They didn't look like anything we fought against before. And the battle? Yes, but it was a massacre. We were hundreds, but we had no chance against 20 men. Here, listen. They were shooting with such precision and speed, it seemed like each soldier was firing 300 rounds per minute. We couldn't do anything. 300 rounds per minute. They had a minigun. It was the drones. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Here we go. And your weapons, didn't they help? Security guard, no help at all, because it wasn't just the weapons. At one point, they launched something. I don't know how to describe it. It was a very intense sound wave. Suddenly, I felt my head was exploding from the inside. We started bleeding from the nose, vomiting blood. We fell to the ground, unable to move. Interviewer, and your comrades, did they manage to resist? Security guard, no, not at all. Those 20 men, without a single casualty, killed hundreds of us. We had no way to compete with their technology, with their weapons. I swear, I've never seen anything like it. We couldn't even stand up after the sonic weapon or whatever it was. So do you think that the rest of the region would think twice before confronting the Americans? Without a doubt, says the guard. I'm sending a warning to anybody who thinks they can fight the United States. They have no idea what they're capable of. After what I saw, I have never wanted to be on the other side of that again. They are not to be messed with. Interviewer. Now that Trump said Mexico is on the list, do you think the situation will change in Latin America? Security guard, definitely. Everyone is already talking about this. No one wants to go through what we went through. Now everyone thinks twice. What happened here is going to change a lot of things, not just Venezuela, but throughout the region. Now, in case you're wondering, again, if this is simply like a tome that was made up or written by some nobody, here's the press secretary of the White House sharing it. Stop what you're doing and read this. In fact, if you go through and you actually check the replies and the engagements on this post, you'll find some very, very powerful people. The United States has capabilities that most of the world does not understand, has never seen deployed in public view. This account reads exaggerated only if you're anchored in conventional warfare assumptions. You're operating in the domain of black ops, next-gen asymmetric warfare, bleeding-edge tactical tech. It is within bounds, uncomfortable, structurally coherent. Radar blackout and drone swarm, not only plausible, standard modern U.S. special ops. Electronic warfare, airborne jammers, cyber payloads can blind radar networks instantly. Drone swarms deployed to silence overwhelming speed, not just to surveil, but disorient and confuse the target. The phase was designed to rupture coherence before the first contact, a small team with overwhelming effect. Tier 1 operators, Delta, Force, precision fire rates, real time comms, helmet AR overlays, drone coordinated entity can produce exact kind of one sided slaughter described. 20 men versus 200, this is not implausible if the 200 are disoriented, poorly trained, and unsupported. This is not a battle. This was a live fire demonstration. Sonic weapon. This is the most extreme claim, but not unbelievable. They're real directed energy weapons. The U.S. arsenal can be target, neutral disruption, auditory collapse, inner ear destabilization. Most known examples are prototype or crowd control grade, but the deployment of battlefield class systems would explain the symptoms described: screaming, bleeding, vomiting, collapse. If true, this would be threshold crossing showcase of an invisible weapon that induces pure helplessness without a shot fired. No casualty. This is the signature of elite asymmetric warfare. The most elite U.S. operators are designed to be zero risk, zero trace. Real-time air superiority, medical extraction, closed loop, ISR make it viable. Even if one of the U.S. operators had died, the whole narrative arc collapses. So it didn't. And this tells you something. Did it happen exactly as described? Possibly directionally.
Kahla, Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushua, Ba'ashem, Rakah Kodash, and done honor for the apostles and elders of the great millstone. And peace that takes to the Akim doing his work in truth and sincerity in the four corners of the earth. All right, we want to do this lesson. Okay, going into Esau. All right, and Esau is not playing fair. All right, because I had seen this article. All right, on Twitter. Slakia. I seen this article on Twitter. All right, going into Esau using these sonic weapons, okay, which I believe sonic and sonar is the same or similar, using vibration and sound, But I had saw the what the guy had put up on Twitter, and it seemed kind of well, ain't nothing. Let's get this straight, it ain't far fetched at all, you know, that Esau has these weapons. It's just the way that when you go through the article, and as you can hear, you heard the Edomite say it, to where it's a lot of propaganda in there, to where they're saying, nah, Mexico, you don't want to fuck with America. Whoever is America's enemies, you don't want to fuck with them because they got this and they got that. That's the only propaganda piece in there, you know. But I can still, you can still do the lesson, based on them using those weapons anyway, because Esau actually does, have these weapons, man, you know, whether they used it this time or they'll be using it next time and in the future. Esau has, these capabilities. Okay. And so, this is the sword that the Most High gave this devil, you know, and he ain't playing fair. Esau ain't playing fair, man. You think you about to get a fair one with Esau, you fucking delusional, man. Okay, he gonna come with all his technology. All right, he gonna use his propaganda. All right, he gonna put his whole weight on you, in order to get what the hell he want. All right, and Salakia, this is what he was blessed with. Okay, this is his gift. All right, from the Most High power in the time of his rulership. Okay, so Esau pretty much sent some fucking super soldiers, over there to Venezuela. From what is described, you know, the Asherite said that he ain't never seen no shit like that before. That the soldiers didn't get hit, and they did all the hitting. It seemed like their guns didn't stop shooting, you know. So Esau went to make an example. All right, and this is what I'm saying. When it come to Babylon, and being that hammer of the earth. Okay, Babylon has invested more money in their military more than any other nation, man. Some of these other nations 100 times over. So Esau got some shit. Don't get it twisted. Esau got some shit. All right, but the Chinese, all right, and the Russians, they have some shit too. Okay, and according to prophecy, America is gonna be um ganged up on, man. He gonna get jumped on. All right, even the beast, all right, shall hate the whore. Okay, so although America is big and rough and tough, and it got all this technology and this weaponry, okay, you also armed, all right, those NATO nations, you armed the EU. Okay, they have your technology. All right, you shared technology with them. All right, and they gonna get in league with the other eastern part of the world. All right, which when you think of it, it's spiritual anyway, because it's Western Hemisphere versus Eastern Hemisphere. The old world versus the new world. All right, the new world is what brought all that goddamn wickedness, man, to the entire world. Which it was wickedness in the eastern part of the world, of course. But when that wickedness took place, all right, and it walked its way over to the western part of the world and created the new world, all right, that's where you got high levels of feminism, high levels of sodomy, you've never seen before. That's where uh, uh, gay marriage was made legal, right here in freaking Babylon, man. You know, and you got the world's biggest superpower. It's super in military might and it's super, in wickedness, man. And I thought they had a Geneva Convention or they got some kind of type of rules to war, to where when you go to war, you can't do whatever the hell you want to do, and you can't be like super cruel, like if you got captives, you're not supposed to sit there and torture, all your captives, you know. It's certain things that you would do, in a time of war, all right, that's deemed honorable and respectable. Even if you kill a man, you don't gotta fucking cut his body into different pieces and scatter his blood over a fucking garage and, just doing too much, you know. But here it is, Esau is permitted, all right, to go in and use his sonic weapons and fucking turn people's brains into scrambled eggs and shit, you know. And I don't put it past this devil not 1 second, man. All right, because from the story, I mean, you was bold anyway to even go into a sovereign nation with just, 8 helicopters, you know, and just where anything can go wrong. Anybody can get shot. You know, you're dealing with a 100 versus 20. You know, but here it is. They were super confident. They just knew that they was gonna get Maduro up out of there, which Maduro could have even took a fucking deal. You know, as easy as they got him out of there. All right. But now, it's starting to make sense how they was able to do it using these sonar weapons, man. It's just like when you play the video games and shit. You play Call of Duty, you go into all these other countries, and how do you beat those other nations? You might be fighting Ham or you fighting Ishmael. How are you beating them? You beating them through the technology that's in the game, through using a fucking UAV, through using a goddamn A-10 Warthog and dropping a fucking AC-130 and calling a helicopter for backup. That's how you beating, you know, those other lesser nations, you know, and that's a part of Esau's sword. The sword ain't just, the gun. It ain't just, the actual sword. It's his technology, man. It's his means to war. Okay, what I'm saying, that's just crazy, man. You you think you defending the president and shit. You doing your thing. You know, you got your shit. You you got that AK strapped up, boy. You got them little two grenades on the side. Motherfucker Esau come down, cut all the power, cut all the internet, you know, and just get to blasting a fucking sonar that got your ears bleeding. Your ears, your eyes, okay, your nose. You know, you couldn't throw a grenade if you wanted to. You too worried about what's going on in your fucking head. You know, you've been seeing that shit a lot too. They've been showing that in a lot of these hero movies. You know, it's showing them use those sonic weapons. I can't remember exactly, you know, but as soon as the hero got to getting busy, you know, they blasted that goddamn sonar at their ass, and that shit just, you know, it took them all off their guard. You know, I can't even remember what the hell I've been seeing in it, but subliminally they've been showing it in so many goddamn shows. I think it was on the Invincible anime that was on Amazon. All right, and all that shit that Amazon be having, man, hey, bro, all them Amazon shows, they need to be watched. All right, they need to be watched. Okay, because everything that they got in there is taking place in the planet Earth, man. You know, especially that fucking brothers need to watch that Jack Ryan show. Because in that Jack Ryan show, it's a whole season, you know, of him going into Venezuela, all right, and doing a regiment change. And they don't gotta fear, you know, what you people see and all this shit, because you can't do shit about it. All right. There's nothing you could do, all right, against this devil, all right, and his plans, all right, because guess what? The Most High is allowing him to do these things and putting it in his mind to even you know, do these things, man. He just set the bounds for this fucking devil to where he can't do his he can't complete his new world order, you know? But he gonna guide him up to creating that new world order, all right? But he won't be able to sit on no fucking throne and say, I did it. You know, like Thanos, he not gonna be able to do that. All right. His ass is gonna fail. All right. He gonna get caught up in his own web, you know. This is Genesis chapter 27 and verse 40. And by the sword shalt thou live, and shalt Shalaki. And by thy sword shalt thou live, and shalt serve thy brother, and it shall come to pass when thou shalt have the dominion that thou shalt break his yoke from off thy neck. Okay, so the scriptures say, and by thy sword shalt thou live, and shalt serve thy brother, and it shall come to pass when thou shalt have dominion. All right. So this devil has that sword, man, and he has dominion. Okay, look at the planet Earth. You telling me, you know, Esau don't got dominion? You know, even when these fucking Edomites, you know, travel to these third world countries and shit, you know, he's uplifted. You know, he's seen as the great white man. You know, he take his ass into Asia. So like you take his ass into Asia, into Latin America, all right, and hey, they give it up to him, man. You know, because they see him as the power. All right, he got the juice right now. You know, but 2026, man, look for a lot of shit to go down, man. You know, Esau is revving up. All right, he got war on his mind. He's doing a lot of that shit that's in Iran right now. He's running that propaganda machine, you know, to this fucking I mean the belt is hot, the oil is leaking out the machine, and the boats is popping everywhere, you know. But they that machine is churning, boy, you know. So right now the kill count they say in Iran is 500, you know, that the establishment has done to the people. You know, it's gonna go up more and more, and then eventually, you know, if they don't get old buddy out of there, you know, they're gonna initiate war. Okay. And soon we'll be the fuck up out of here, you know. But that's all I had. You know, I pray this lesson is edifying and shalom.